Nintendo really played the Switch hand perfectly with the next gen coming up. There's been a little bit of talk, which I've discussed multiple times on this channel with various different forms talking about next generation, where does the Switch fit, and I recently had a video where I was talking about that, and many people felt, I would say, unconvinced that the Nintendo Switch would get support going forward, considering with next gen and 12 teraflops and so much more power. But something that Square Enix just recently said kind of assures what I said in my video, which was that Nintendo Switch is still going to be around, they're still going to develop for it. Next gen isn't going to completely take over anytime soon, because these systems are very similar, they're going to be backwards compatible, and there's going to be a small install base compared to what we already have with the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and also the Nintendo Switch. So you're probably not going to see a lot of developers, especially Japanese ones, where they saw what happened to the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 in their own home country, kind of get bopped by the Nintendo Switch. They're not just going to all jump over and forget about all the other systems for these new systems because they're stronger. That's not going to happen. And what Square Enix said here kind of confirms what I was saying with my video. Now, I'm going to talk about what Square Enix said. We're going to get into that. And then we're going to get into how Nintendo played their hand perfectly this time compared to what they did with the Wii U. Because this is almost the same strategy, but the system and how they executed it was just way better. But honestly, like, Nintendo did a very good job with that, and I think it's worth just discussing the differences and kind of what they did and getting into it a bit more. So at a recent investors meeting, Square Enix actually talked about next gen and what they were going to be doing, and this is what they said when they were asked this question from an investor. Could you share your thinking on development of new titles for current and next generation game consoles going forward? Here is what Square Enix had to say. The next generation consoles will have backwards compatibility, so we plan for the time being to make our new titles available for both current and next generation consoles, and it will therefore be somewhat further down the road that we release titles exclusively for the next generation consoles. So Square Enix is one of the major players when it comes to Japan games. I think them and Bandai Namco are the two biggest third-party developers in Japan. They make the most amount of revenue and money and profit out of Japan, and their games sell the best out of the Japanese games third-party developers here in the US. Although Capcom does have Resident Evil, Capcom does have Monster Hunter, they do have some big hitters, but of course Final Fantasy and of course all the different anime IP that Bandai Namco has, in addition to kinda, I guess, Smash Brothers, but that's not really their game. But Bandai Namco has Dragon Ball Z. They just have a lot of properties that they sell. They put out a lot of different games. So these are the two top lead ones here, but we're focusing on Square Enix and what they had to say, and I'm thinking that if they're thinking that, then obviously a lot of these other companies are thinking that, because they want to leverage and take advantage of the install base. With backwards compatibility, and even better yet, with Microsoft's smart delivery, you're still going to be able to get games that are made for the PlayStation 4, play them on your Xbox Series X, and I'm guessing the PlayStation 5 is going to have some type of upscaling or doing whatever, like smart delivery as well, and you're going to be able to play those, and it's still going to look and play great on that system, almost like the Xbox One X, for example, right? If you play, let's just say, Kingdom Hearts 3 on the original Xbox One, I should say, the VCR Xbox, compared to playing that on the Xbox One X, it's a much better experience. You're going to get better frame rate, you're going to get better resolution, and all of that. Now, with the Xbox Series X, smart delivery, it's going to maybe even enhance that a bit more, and developers can update it as well. So there is a lot of promise with these new systems, and just saying, hey, everybody can kind of play. Everybody can kind of jump into the fray in terms of the newer games coming out. We're not just ditching the 100 million plus people that already have these systems, if you count the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and also the Nintendo Switch. And if you look at it, Microsoft, a first-party developer, is even doing the same thing. They said that all of their games are going to be cross-gen as well. They're going to make games on the Xbox One, and they're going to make games on the Xbox Series X. There's not going to be exclusive games. So that's another thing, kind of just showing you that, yeah, it's a little bit of a different generation. And one thing that I talked about in my live stream, the reason why this is happening, because in the past, we've never got these mid-gen refreshes, right? Somebody can pick up an Xbox One X that has, what, 6 teraflops of power and be good. You can be good. You're going to get great gameplay. You're going to get fantastic looking games. You're going to get some games in 4K, most of them not, but maybe checkerboarded or whatever the case is. But you're going to get games that look great on your huge TVs. It's going to be a great playing experience. I have an Xbox One X myself, and I'll be honest, if I wasn't a content creator where I'm doing this all the time, then I probably would wait on the Xbox Series X and just get it later down the line and be fine with my Xbox One X. So that's the thing. A lot of these games, in terms of how they're making them, there's really no need to just ditch everything. It's pretty much the same game. You're just flipping it from the medium settings to the high settings as if it was a PC. Now there's features and there's other things that each of these systems bring uniquely with the Xbox Series X over the Xbox One X, and with the PlayStation 5 over the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 4 Pro. But at the end of the day, like, how much better is it going to look? There is the law of diminishing returns. It's going to run better, it's going to look better, you're going to have better resolutions and everything, but at the end of the day, there's going to be not as big of a difference that we saw from, let's say, going from the 6th generation to the 7th generation, and even in some respects, the 7th generation to the 8th generation. So I think that developers understand this. Microsoft obviously understands this. They want people to jump in and get into their ecosystem and play games, and that's what Square Enix wants. That's what Square Enix wants to do. That's what these companies want to do, to say, hey, we'll just make these games, we'll have versions for the PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox, we'll continue supporting the Nintendo Switch with games. We got Trials of Mana coming out, obviously Bravely Default 2 is coming out this year, that's going to be a great game. Dragon Quest XI S Definitive Edition, that came out last year. That's a phenomenal game, and I think there's going to be more of those classic IPs. They're going to kind of cater to that audience with what games they can bring over, but then also bring over the stuff like Outriders, for example. If I'm saying that correctly, I'll have something up on the screen if I mispronounce that. That new game that's coming PS4, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, next Xbox or Xbox Series X. So I think that there is room for all of these systems, but to be honest, development is getting so expensive and things are happening at such a fast rate, and the whole mid-gen more power refresh, right, where you upgrade the power, not by a little bit, by a lot, also threw a wrench into this whole, well, let's just drop last gen. I think that those systems are powerful enough. They're getting to the prices that are low enough. The Xbox One X is $299, so people are going to be able to afford it. You might get it for $250 this holiday. People are going to be able to just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to pick up this game, pick up my Halo Infinite, play it on my Xbox One X, and maybe in the next 2 years or so, in the next year or so, I can pick up a Series X, or I can pick up a PlayStation 5. I think PS4 Pro, once again, that system is still really good. Horizon Zero Dawn, which is coming to PC, that looks great on the PS4 Pro, and it runs great on the PS4 Pro as well. So there's still some life left in these systems because of the mid-gen refresh. And also, if you're looking at it from a Nintendo angle, there's just a sheer amount of people. You can't ignore the 50 million plus people that are continuously buying the system, and we're seeing games from these third-party developers like CD Projekt Red, or we're seeing stuff like Dark Souls, we're seeing stuff like Sega talk about some of these sales for these different games, Bandai Namco, what they're doing on the system as well. There's just a lot of positive momentum with these different games. I mean, Bethesda has come out and said that their games are doing well, so there is a market there. Not gonna get everything, like I talked about in my video before, not gonna get everything that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One and all these other systems get, but they're not just gonna leave it behind completely. And especially for Japanese developers, that have been supporting the Nintendo Switch, they're not gonna stop anytime soon. But to kind of get back to what I was talking about in terms of where Nintendo put the Switch and how they played it perfectly within next gen, if you compare it to the Wii U, that came out during the very end, right? The very end of the 7th generation. It was an 8th generation system, but it came out at the very end of it, and the other systems came and they kind of just overtook it very quickly, right? Whereas people thought that Nintendo was doing the same thing with the Switch, but that was not the case. They played it better. It wasn't necessarily the very end, it was kind of like somewhere near the middle towards the end, but then they also had the foresight to know, you know what, well, we think this generation could last longer, we think this generation is going to be a bit different, and so they played it perfectly there, because the Nintendo Switch came out 2017. We're going on the 3rd year anniversary of the system coming out, right? And it came out 2017, and at that point there was just so many people looking for something kind of different. and it got that audience. It got so many different games. It sold so well, and it's continued to do well. And then look at that. You have Square Enix coming out now and saying that, hey, you know what, we're not ready to go all in for next gen exclusively. We're going to have cross-gen titles, so that's definitely good as well. So then if you look at it, we can wait. Like, let's just say 2 or 3 years. That's when developers start going completely next gen per se, once they build up a healthy install base. By that point, Nintendo will have already pretty much had their Switch 2 probably ready to go or prepping to go. And when those games start coming exclusively, they can build a Switch around at that point that developers can be happy enough, at least with the specs, in order to get things done. So people are saying Nintendo's not going to have the power for these next gen games and stuff like that. And that may be the case for some of them, but a lot of these games are going to be on PS4 and Xbox One, which we've seen that there's plenty of PS4 and Xbox One games that are on the Nintendo Switch, like Doom Eternal, obviously Doom 2016, that game, The Witcher 3. There's a lot of them out there. So some of these games are still going to come over. The Outer Worlds, which is still coming to Nintendo Switch as well. So Nintendo played this one really good, because in the next 2 or 3 years, when we start seeing those exclusive games from these companies, Nintendo will probably have the Switch 2 ready to go at that point. I don't think it's going to be a Switch Pro. I don't think it's going to be a small upgrade. That might come, but that's not going to be the true successor. By the time that these exclusive next-gen games come, Nintendo will have their Switch 2 ready to go, and they can launch it, and they can kind of see what type of power we need, where it's the minimum. They can make like a custom chip with NVIDIA, not just the stock Tegra X1. So there's a lot of positive momentum for Nintendo, and there's positive momentum for pretty much everybody at this point, right? Microsoft is looking good. Sony's looking good because they're coming out the PS4 selling the most with 100 million plus. Nintendo's continuing to roll. They're going to have Animal Crossing, which is just blazing it up on the charts, already at #1 weeks before the game is even launched on the eShop. So people are going to have a blast with whatever system you decide to pick, and I'm having a ton of fun with pretty much all my systems. I don't pay my PS4 Pro or my PS4 that much, but my Xbox One X and my Nintendo Switch, having a blast with those systems. So what do you guys think about how Nintendo positioned themselves this time? I think they're in a pretty good spot. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Check out the link in the description. We've got Twitter. Go ahead and give us a follow on there and stay up to date on all the latest gaming news. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share this video if you can. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.